It's a good question. Consulting services used to be very much about providing project management, strategy consulting firms providing strategy, and other consulting firms providing execution implementation. Now, what the situation today is that our clients expect from us one single firm, both to help them with the strategy and to help them lead them through the execution up until the final results. Competition has changed as well. Competitors nowadays in consulting are not only other consulting firms, it's also the internal organizations of the client, which means that we as consultants must be much more efficient and continue to have a high level of competence in order to compete with internal consulting organizations set up in our client companies. This means that for us as consultants, we consistently focus on only having experienced people with 20-25 years background in actual work as managers and executives and as directors in businesses, because then we can really deliver results. Many consulting organizations still have a traditional pyramid model, but they're getting increasingly more and more difficulties in finding assignments, finding opportunities for work with clients, for the junior consultants, and this is an interesting change that's taking place in the market.
There have been quite a lot of developments in performance management during the last 5 years. In particular, in private entities and in public organizations, there have been two different tracks. Performance management in private organizations, especially large corporations, have been looking very much at contracted relationships and integrating performance management parameters, key performance indicators into the contracts, and are now looking to build performance management parameters across contracts. So basically, if you have outsourced relationships or contract relationships, you build performance management parameters across several contracts in order to basically observe and audit the whole kind of value chain, if you want. In the public sector, performance management has been, if ever it was adopted. In some institutions it wasn't adopted. It depends really on what public organization we talk about. But in some institutions it had been implemented, but mainly looking at performance management, purely looking at project efficiency from an internal perspective, meaning traditional project management, and then looking how well this project is managed, is it executed according to the standards of project management, methodologies being used, and leading to the results as predicted internally. Now, performance management these days is much more looking to the external effects of the projects being started in public organizations. So the external impact factors are becoming more and more important to justify public expenditures, for projects. The European Commission is a good example, shifting these days, into external impact parameter observation, and then justifying investment into innovation platforms by the external kind of impacts being expected, and that obviously needs to be monitored, so that we can basically identify the project results actually happening. So this is mainly the changes that happened over the last 5 years. And Bearing Consulting is actually involved in drafting up, working with the European Commission, working on implementing these kind of performance management parameters jointly with the European Commission.
I think coming out of this last cycle, it's very much the case, because you have two types of transactions primarily going on. One is you've got the corporates that are acquiring companies so that they can consolidate their position. The classic case is look at what's happening with Apple and Google right now, especially when you're getting into the mobile advertising space. On the other side, you've got smaller companies that need to make a, shall we say, clear value proposition to the market. They haven't been able to do so, so the best way is to have a horizontal merger. So this way they're either going to be able to reach new markets and, more importantly, create a stronger service which will allow them to monetize their product. So in these two cases, this is what I would say is prevalent in the M&A space.
But the crisis came out of a crisis in the mortgage market in the US and new financial instruments constructed by the large investment banks. But there was no real fundamental problems in most markets. It was a booming economy. So in that sense, it was a recession that came about by an external factor and hit companies without really companies having any time to prepare for it. So.
Well, one thing's important. We don't want to go on the record and disagree with Mr. Baum. But the other thing is that if you consider this a reset, it's because you could say that the supply chain has changed somewhat. Because with a lack of liquidity caused for whatever reason, all the rules have changed. So now really the flow of capital, what you do with the capital, the rules for how you grow a business, yes, I would say they have reset.
But some of the instruments of the financial structure needs to be reconsidered. Using the track record going back 10 years, because the leeway, the opening up of very inventive schemes to experiment with different financial arrangements needs to be looked at, in retrospect and to considerable degree. And I think there are some, like the hedge fund business, that needs to really be looked into seriously to see if you can have a global system of checks and balances in order to avoid speculation that some of these hedge funds have been doing. Because they triggered some of this. It wasn't just the mortgage market, but it was also the rules of the game that needs to be considered.
True.
So there are a few factors in combination that actually made the crisis more severe and more detrimental to the economic development. And there are forces in Spain, in France, and so on, saying that we need to have this at a global level, not just at the national level. And I think we're moving